The future is unimaginable. It's unpredictable. But how can it be any other way, with a past riddled with discrimination and a present where anything goes?
A man was caught on camera setting fire to an LGBT youth center in Phoenix, Arizona last week.
The transgender community is really focusing on this teen suicide as an example of what they call intolerance and ignorance towards transgenders.
President Obama noted that today's mass shooting is especially painful for gay and lesbian Americans, as a club where they socialized in solidarity was the target.
Trump has announced his intention to ban transgender people from serving in the U.S. military.
Being the next generation, you have to think about the future. But how can you think about the future when you don't feel safe?
My name is Benita Ramsey, connected in a couple ways. One, as a community leader and advocate for LGBTQ youth. I provide services as a consultant to community and county governments of training around LGBT 101. I provide supervision and support to LGBT youth groups in the area. And also I serve as a pastor of a church that is open and affirming and serves many members of the LGBT community.
I self-identify as someone who's gay or lesbian or queer, depending on who I'm talking to. And I'm also director of the LGBT Resource Center here at the University of California, Riverside.
Cody Barroso. I have identified as bisexual, as a lesbian. I've identified as a trans guy, and now I just kind of go by queer for my sexuality.
My name is Asher Jones. I'm a volunteer with the Sierra Club and a student at Riverside State College. I identify as a trans male. Well, my pronouns are he, him, his, they, them, theirs.
I identify as queer. That's how I'm identified.
In my work with the LGBT community, have I experienced discrimination? I think because there are, the issue of intersectionality, when we talk about race, class, gender, that there are barriers that still exist around race, class, and gender within the community. And so, yeah, there are challenges of discrimination. There's challenges of racism and classism. There are places and points in time where I've felt excluded.
As a center, we've also dealt with vandalism against our door. We've dealt with people. This is personal information, so I'll stop the story there. But one of the side effects of hate incidents and hate crimes against other people in a community is that the rest of the community feels it. So when I have students who've been harmed physically or simply had things yelled at them, I feel that too, and the people around them feel that. So it ends up being very personal for me also.
Yeah, but I mean, I wasn't. I think more so than anything, it was adults. Once I was outside of the school setting, why don't you wear dresses? You'd be so pretty if you wore makeup. I think it was more so the adults that were the issue.
When I was stressed, not stressed, but I was going through a lot with my gender. I didn't know what I was. I couldn't straight up tell myself this is who I was, because a lot of people get a lot of bad feedback, and they get into really bad situations when they do come out, and that was very hard for me to accept, and it was really hard for me to move on and to figure out who I was, because I was terrified of how people would react, and I got really bad reactions from who at the time was my best friend, and that was really, really hard for me.
The rate of suicide attempts is 4 times greater for LGBT youth and 2 times greater for questioning youth than that of straight youth. With numbers this high, how will we move to a brighter future?
Have I seen the youth group help a lot of young people who've come through? I will say this, that I can tell you some stories of young people who came and were having difficulties with coming out to their families, and they came back with stories of, after some time with the group, having conversations with their family about coming out because they now felt affirmed by the group. There have been other folks who have developed friendships as a result of the group?
I think it does have an effect. I think if both parties, your peers and the adults in your life or the adults surrounding you, if both of them have an issue, then you don't have anyone to turn to, and you feel alone, you feel isolated, and then that's when internalized problems come into play, and then you get all these other issues that you have to deal with, like mental health and emotional health. But I feel if you have, whether it's your peers or the adults around you that are a supportive platform for you, you're going to be okay, as long as you're brave enough to continue to reach out to the supporting group. People need others whom they can relate to.
I feel like I did get a lot of support online. That was kind of like my youth group, but it wasn't like an actual one. I feel like I would have had a lot more support. I wouldn't have been so ashamed, and it would have been a lot easier for me to figure out who I was.
In high school, I was in my GSA, Gay Straight Alliance, and there was a room that we went to every Thursday at lunchtime, and we were able to just hang out and have fun and just talk about things. There are queer people who are homeless, who are starving, who just don't understand themselves and need that resource, who need that place to escape, that oasis. That's where I learned about my trans identity. That's where I learned about the word trans for the first time, and that's where I really started to do that development. And so having that space really did formulate who I am today.
Do I anticipate that folks will still need to come out, or will there still, I'm not sure. I think that only time will tell, but I think there's always going to be a space where, because we're so diverse and the diversity and the complexity of who we are as gender and sexuality people is ever changing, that there's always going to be nuances that are going to need to be teased out and lived out into reality. So I think there's always going to be a need for a space for people to be able to express who they are as they discover that. What that looks like in the future may be different than how we conceive it today. I think that GSAs will evolve. I think that the club culture will evolve. I think faith communities will evolve. So I think what it looks like and what we call it may be different than safe spaces, but there'll always be a need for what we call sanctuary.
If more people are accepting in about, let's say 20, 25 years, maybe it won't be necessarily pride. Like, we'll still be like proud of who we are, but if people are more accepting, maybe there won't be necessarily like pride, because we have that because a lot of people aren't accepting, and this is the way to show that we don't care about what they think.
Will there ever be a time when people do not have to come out? I used to think that there would never come a time when people wouldn't feel a need to come out. However, I'm starting to change my mind about that a little bit, because so many young people seem to be okay with sexual and gender fluidity, but that's coming up against really entrenched homophobia, biphobia, transphobia in culture and oppression toward LGBTQ people. So 25 years from now, I feel like hopefully it'll be less traumatic and more easier to find support.
If we haven't been killed yet, then we're going to be the CEOs, and we're going to be the leaders, and we're going to be the next freedom fighters, and we're going to be in the top positions of power. But I say that because we are powerful, we are strong, we are beautiful, and that's what they're afraid of.
I'm not going to say the whole cliche, don't care what everyone thinks, because we care. We care. We want to feel accepted, and of course that starts with yourself. You need to be able to accept yourself and love yourself, just the way you came packaged.
I feel like goals is just, honestly, just be yourself. Just figure out who that person is, and to not feel ashamed to be who you are.
You caught me as I was winking. Now I think my winking days are through. Could it be another change?